The afternoon sun beat down on a quiet street in Georgia, where an old man named Harold was sitting on a worn bench outside a corner store, sipping his sweet tea. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted the cup. Years of hard work and war had left their marks. But behind those tired eyes lived a man who'd seen things these streets could never imagine. Down the sidewalk, 3 young men strutted over, loud, laughing, full of ego. They spotted Harold and smirked. "Yo, look at Grandpa chillin' like he owns the place," one said, kicking a pebble toward him. Harold didn't look up. He'd learned long ago that silence often said more than words. But that only made them bolder. "Hey old man, you got some cash on you?" Another taunted, stepping closer. Harold took another slow sip, calm as ever. "Son, you don't want to do this," he said quietly. The leader, a tall one with a chain around his neck, laughed. "Or what? You gonna hit us with your cane?" A few people across the street noticed the tension, but no one moved. Harold sighed softly, his eyes distant, the kind of look soldiers get when memories come rushing back. "Last time someone said that to me," he murmured, setting his cup down, "I was in a jungle halfway across the world," and he didn't finish the sentence. The leader frowned, confused. "Man, what you talking about?" Before anyone could blink, Harold moved, slow but sharp, his cane swinging with precise force. It hooked the thug's wrist, twisting it down until the chain hit the pavement. The other 2 stumbled back, shocked. "You boys think strength comes from noise," Harold said, his voice suddenly powerful. "I learned mine from silence." The leader groaned on the ground, clutching his wrist, eyes wide. "Who are you, old man?" Harold looked him dead in the eye and said, "Sergeant Harold Thompson. U.S. Army. Vietnam, 1968. The 3 thugs froze. The street, once filled with laughter and noise, went completely silent. The youngest one's mouth fell open. "Wait, you're military." Harold stood slowly, his back straightening as if decades melted off his shoulders. His cane wasn't for weakness anymore, it was just part of his uniform now. He said calmly. "Fought for this country when some folks didn't even see me as part of it." The leader stumbled to his feet, still rubbing his wrist. "Man, we didn't mean." "Didn't mean what?" Harold interrupted, voice low but sharp. "Didn't mean to pick on someone you thought couldn't fight back. Didn't mean to disrespect a man who bled for your freedom." A few bystanders started recording now, their phones out, realizing this wasn't just a random argument, it was a lesson unfolding. The tallest thug tried to act tough again. "Yo, look, we ain't scared of some old war story." Harold took a step closer, eyes fierce and steady. "Then maybe you should be scared of the truth." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn wallet. From it, he took a faded military ID, edges torn, the photo barely visible but the words, U.S. Army, Sergeant H. Thompson, still clear. Under it, a bronze star medal, dented but shining. The crowd gasped. Even the thugs went quiet. Harold's voice softened, but it carried power. "I watched friends die beside me in the mud, so you boys could grow up and walk free. And this is how you use that freedom." The youngest thug swallowed hard, guilt washing over his face. We didn't know, sir." Harold looked at him for a long second, then nodded slowly. "Knowing isn't the same as understanding. You can fix that, starting today." He turned to leave, picking up his tea again. "But next time," he added over his shoulder, "make sure the man you disrespect isn't the one who fought to give you the right to open your mouth." The 3 stood frozen as Harold walked away, his cane tapping steady against the pavement, every tap sounding less like weakness and more like thunder. As Harold reached the end of the block, a police cruiser turned the corner, siren wailing faintly before shutting off. The store clerk had called for help earlier, thinking the old man was in danger. 2 officers stepped out, hands on their belts. "Sir, are you all right?" one asked, looking from Harold to the shaken thugs. Harold gave a small nod. "I'm fine, officer. Just some boys who lost their manners." The taller cop looked at the crowd, then at the 3 young men, sweaty, nervous, clearly humbled. "We got reports of harassment. That true?" Before Harold could answer, the youngest thug stepped forward. "It's true, officer. We messed up. We didn't know who he was." The cop frowned. "And who exactly is he?" Harold sighed softly, then handed over his worn ID card. The officer's eyes widened as he read it. Sergeant Harold Thompson, Vietnam veteran, he said quietly. He looked up with new respect. Sir, it's an honor. Harold smiled faintly. The honor was serving, not being remembered for it. The officer turned to the three boys. You're lucky he's forgiving. If it were anyone else, you'd be in cuffs right now. The leader hung his head. We deserve worse. Harold studied them for a moment, then said, you deserve a second chance. Use it better than your first. He pointed his cane toward the gas station. See that flag out front? Go raise it, properly, and say thank you while you do. The thugs hesitated, then slowly nodded. Together, they walked to the flagpole, lowering and re-raising the American flag with shaky hands. The crowd went quiet again, watching a small moment of respect replace all the noise. When the flag reached the top, Harold saluted, slow, steady, proud. The officers followed suit. Even the kids across the street stopped to watch. As he turned to leave, the youngest thug called out, voice trembling, Sir, thank you for what you did. For the country, and for us. Harold paused, the sun glinting off his medal one last time. Son, he said with a faint smile, I didn't fight for thanks. I fought so you'd have the chance to do better. And with that, he walked off down the street, his cane tapping rhythmically like a heartbeat of history, reminding everyone who watched that true strength doesn't fade with age. Later that evening, the story of the diner and the flag spread across the small town like wildfire. Someone had recorded the whole thing on their phone, from the moment the thugs confronted Harold to the final salute. By morning, the video had millions of views. Comments poured in from veterans, families, and even old friends who hadn't seen Harold in decades. Respect, Sergeant Thompson. This man is a real hero. That salute hit me hard. At the diner, the owner, who had quietly watched the whole thing, decided to hang Harold's photo on the wall, right beside the American flag. The caption read, Our local hero, never judge a man by his clothes. When Harold returned for coffee a few days later, the place fell silent again, but this time out of respect, not doubt. The same young men who once bullied him now stood behind the counter wearing aprons. They'd come back to ask for jobs after Harold refused to press charges, and the owner gave them a chance. As one poured his coffee, he said quietly, Sir, we're trying to make things right. Harold looked up, nodding slowly. Then don't try. Just do it. Every day you wake up, be better than the man you were yesterday. He sipped his coffee, glancing at the photo on the wall. Funny, he murmured with a small smile. Didn't think my face would ever hang next to a flag again. The owner chuckled. You earned it, Sergeant. You reminded this whole town what respect really looks like. Outside, a few townspeople stood near the same flagpole, raising it again for the morning. The thugs turned workers joined them, saluting in silence. As the wind caught the flag and lifted it high, Harold whispered to himself, still standing tall, just like we should. And for the first time in years, the old veteran smiled, not because he'd been honored, but because he'd seen the world grow a little kinder in one small corner of America. A week later, Harold received a letter at the shelter where he sometimes stayed. It was sealed with an official emblem, the Department of Veterans Affairs. The manager handed it to him carefully. Looks important, Harold. He opened it slowly, his hands trembling just a bit. Inside was a neatly typed message and a folded American flag pin. The letter read, Greater than dear Sergeant Thompson. Your story reached the hearts of millions, including ours. Your courage, humility, and service remind us what true honor means. We're restoring your veteran benefits in full and offering you a permanent home in our veteran housing program. Thank you for your service, and for inspiring the nation. Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Harold stared at the paper, eyes glistening. For years, he had lived quietly, forgotten by a system that once called him a hero. And now, the same country he fought for was finally reaching back. That evening, when he returned to the diner, the young men and the owner gathered around as he read the letter aloud. The crowd clapped, and one of the thugs said softly, You see, sir. You didn't just change us. You changed everyone. Harold smiled gently. I didn't change anyone. I just reminded folks what's already inside them, respect, decency, and a little courage. The diner owner raised his coffee mug. To Harold, a real soldier, and the man who gave this town its heart back. Everyone echoed, to Harold. As they toasted, a reporter entered with a camera crew. "Sergeant Thompson, we'd like to interview you. America wants to hear your story." Harold hesitated, then nodded. "All right," he said with a grin. "But make sure you tell them this: you don't need a uniform to serve your country. Sometimes, all it takes is doing the right thing when no one else will." The camera rolled as the flag outside waved strong in the wind, sunlight gleaming on Harold's worn medals, proof that heroes never fade, they just wait for the right moment to rise again.